Good morning, good afternoon, good evening around the world, and uh, good morning, Chicago. Welcome. And we're going to be talking about Chicago. We're going to talk about trade and real estate and finance and all things good related to Chicago, Illinois, the hometown. It seems like of if it's not a hometown, everybody has somebody they know in Chicago. It's a it's a
Everyone knows the Pope.
crossroads. It's a crossroads location. Um, my wife was telling me about a post this last week where someone in Michigan was posting some animal, I think a deer, must have been a deer, right? They're everywhere in Michigan. And it was like, you guys in California, you don't know about life until you've had animals in your backyard. And it was something like that. And what then ensued was this avalanche of pictures of people in California with animals in their backyard, from peacocks to like all these different animals and ocean, like dolphins and animals and things like that. It's like people get wrapped up in what they think their world is, and then suddenly they get exposed to something else. The great thing about Chicago is it is an amazing place. Yes, it doesn't have an ocean, but it has a lake, a huge lake, which we're looking at from Teresa's view right here on her bike. It's an amazing body of water that feeds nearly the entire eastern United States and the Midwest. It's a tremendous crossroads. And Demetrius Evans, thank you so much for bringing so much global to Chicago, so much global to us here today, and including the idea that you had to bring a few people together, some experts, to talk about why Chicago is this mecca for trade. It is. It is that. And so thank you for not only recognizing it, but also allowing us to talk about it today with some great people. Thank you, Demetrius. Demetrius, by the way, runs the Evans International Law Firms, and she is as good as you can get in terms of handling international law challenges. So if you're an importer or an exporter doing trade of any kind, talk to Demetrius about whatever challenge you're having, or more likely with the law, things that could go wrong and things that can get implemented to avoid those things from going wrong. Demetrius, thank you so much for all that you do.
Thanks, Doug. I love that. Yeah, if you handle the planning beforehand, you don't have the problems at the end, right, Brian? We get it taken care of. Okay, thank you so much for being here. Right. So Chicago is our gateway to other parts of the world, and we are going to discuss it. So I would like to have the privilege of sharing my screen. Can I do that? I'm gonna try there. Okay, it looks like we are on. Can you see that? Yes. Okay, awesome. So Chicago is America's strategic global trade gateway. It's more than a city for us, it's a strategic global trade gateway in the heart of North America, in the heart of the Midwest. We are here connecting domestic markets to international commerce. Chicago serves as a critical hub for importers, exporters, foreign companies entering the US, and Fortune 500 headquarters, I should say, to world class logistics infrastructure. Chicago is where global ambition meets American opportunity. So, what is the power of a geographic positioning? Chicago's central location is one of its greatest strategic assets. It's positioned to touch every major market, the East Coast, West Coast, Canada, the broader Midwest economy within a single business day by ground or air. And how do we do that? Well, there's just world-class transportation infrastructure here. Chicago's transportation network is the strongest and the most interconnected in the world. The city's ability to move high volume goods reliably, efficiently, and at scale is going to make us the preferred logistics base for global companies operating in the North. From rail and intermodal to international airports and interstate highways. Our waterways is just our hidden trade strength. It's overlooked. Chicago's access to inland waterways represents a powerful and cost effective trade advantage. The city sits at the confluence of two of North America's most vital water systems, unlocking global connectivity that bypass congested ports and reduce freight costs for bulk and international cargo. With that, I think that I will get started with my guest. What I think I'd like to do is just go around and we will introduce ourselves. Doug has already introduced me. I started the Evans International Law Firm 17 years ago, where I'm looking at three different issues: international contracts and how we negotiate with each other, and what clauses should be there. Also, intellectual property, which a lot of people don't think about when they're moving around globally. And then there's compliance. That's when we're dealing with tariffs and problems. And then I do a lot of litigation in the federal courts right now, involved with very, very high level antitrust cases. So I'm really thinking a lot about how we trade with each other and how we do it in a way that will sustain us as a world, right? How do we do it where we're protecting each other and still competing, because everybody likes to win? And that's what we do here at the Global Chamber. We're bringing all types of businesses together, large, small, to talk about different issues that affect us all. So if I could bring to the stage right now, Carl D. McFerrin, and let's have you, Carl, to introduce yourself.
Thank you for having me, Demetrius. Yes, my name is Carl D. McFerrin. I'm CEO and president of 606 Global. We're a 4PL global logistics management consulting firm. I've been in the global trade industry for going on 40 years now. I don't want to tell you how many birthdays I've had, but hey, I started at a very young age, and Chicago has been my home and my hub. And so it was a great place to learn global logistics management, because all the major ocean carriers, the rail carriers, the trucking, as Demetrius said, the infrastructure, what DuSable found out hundreds of years ago to make Chicago this great network that it is. So I've worked for major Fortune 500 companies. I was the international lead logistics provider for United Airlines for a number of years prior to their merger with Continental Airlines. I worked with all of the major railroads. There was Chicago Northwestern, the Soo Line, and these railroads were all bought by larger railroads. If you look at Canadian National, they bought the Illinois Central Gulf, so they could have access to the Gulf from Canada. And the Illinois Central Gulf is the only railroad of the major railroads that goes north and south. Every other major railroad goes east to west. So that's the one that made Chicago what it is, what Demetrius was talking about earlier. So just a lot about myself. I've been an ocean freight forwarder. I work with all the major ocean carriers as well. They all seem to have headquarters here in Chicago and the Midwest area. We're strong with our agriculture. Industry is strong here, and just a lot of activities for growth
Wait,
in
what?
international
How
trade.
long? How long have you been in Chicago, Carl? I didn't catch that. How long?
My family, my grandfather came to Chicago in 1917. So,
Wow. Okay,
so
that's
I've been
amazing.
here my life. I'm what they call a city boy. so,
I love it.
so, I
Okay,
mean, I know the big city. That's me.
I'll have a bunch of questions. I'll try not to stay, not to go into your personal life, but
Yeah,
that's interesting
that's
too.
okay. It seems like it's out there anyway. Okay, thank you so much.
You're
I didn't want
welcome.
to talk about myself too long.
No,
Continue.
no, I have other questions for you. I promise. Let me
All right,
bring Teresa Mueller
thank you. Mhm.
to the stage. Hi, Teresa.
Good
I don't.
morning. Thank you
Okay,
for hosting and
I'm not
organizing and
controlling
interviewing
this.
us.
You're welcome. I'm not controlling this, so I don't know. I want your screen bigger. Okay. Thank you, whoever is behind the scenes doing the magic. Teresa, hi, thank you. Please
Good.
introduce yourself to us.
Thank you. I'm Teresa Mueller. I am CEO of Trillium Real Estate. It is an international commercial brokerage out of Chicago and Naperville. So we work on all asset classes, whether it's office, retail, especially resort, multifamily. We have done all the asset classes, and we're on the national and international stage. And what I mean by that is I'm attending lots of different national conventions through different organizations such as CCIM, NCE, NAR. Those are a lot of acronyms. If you want to know what they are, I'm happy to share what those are. So going to lots of national conferences, and then international, I'm going to MIPIM in a couple weeks, and that is the world's largest commercial real estate conference. And it tends to be European focused, but I show up regularly to go there, say, hey, are you looking for acquisition disposition in the US or to market projects to Americans? And then coming back locally to Chicago, it is my own brokerage. So I have assistants and brokers underneath me who are boots on the ground and make things happen here. So lots of mom and pop type of businesses, whether it's an industrial warehouse, office space. So I can go on and on about all the different asset classes. But I think you were saying even before we were recording, what's great about our global community is that we're always looking out for each other and that we're partnering with people, helping people. And it's not always just a sales pitch. You know, you are always paying it forward. So I host webinars where I help moderate getting deals done. And so I might not get paid personally on them, but I'm helping other people. And so that's just making the pie bigger and when we collaborate with each other. But yeah, happy to answer any of your questions on
I
commercial real
love that,
estate, Chicago or
Teresa.
international.
Oh my
There
God.
you
I
go.
think, okay, you're pulling it together. I love
Hmm.
it. Thank you so much. Okay, Jack. And Jack, please pronounce your last name for me.
Volute. Volute with a
Balut.
long U. Yes, yes. Thank you.
Okay, Balut. Well, thank you for joining us. Will you
Thank
please
you for
introduce
having me.
yourself? You're welcome.
Yes, I am Jack Volute. I am currently working at Monix USA. I just joined the company about a month and a half ago, but I've been in this business for over 30 years. So I've been with different companies. And at first, when I first started, it was more or less a relationship manager type of role, where I was taking care of a pipeline of clients. And then about 18 years ago or so, I got into the sales aspect of it. So um, from about 2008 till present day, it's been all sales. So I'm going after new business. I've been in Chicago all my life. Actually, I live in Aurora, Illinois, just outside of Chicago. Um, and our territory, our territory is actually the whole country. But I do focus on this area because there's so many companies that, importer, exporter, it's a great area to try to get business from. So yeah, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
That is amazing. Okay, we are going to have such a lively discussion. But before I switch over to our discussion with our panelists, I'd like to ask a question of the audience. So play along with me. I'd like for you to tell me, where are my questions? What do you do that ties you to Chicago? Let me see some things in the chat. What like anchors you here in business? Can I have Jeopardy music? Dun, dun, dun. Let me see. What am I seeing? Born in Chicago, born and raised. A lot of people recording our meeting here. Okay, let me see. I'm not actually seeing the answers. Is it the lakefront? Is it really the connections here? It's not the weather. You guys, I gotta tell you, I came here from Florida. It's not the weather in Chicago except for a couple months out of the year. So it's something else. It's a major business center. Yes, it has a lot to offer. I love the food in Chicago. I love the people. I love how things move in Chicago. Okay, thank you for playing along, Demetrius's Jeopardy. Okay, let's get into I think I want to ask this question of Teresa because you just struck this in me. Um when foreign companies are coming to the US and decide that they're going to purchase land, property, assets in the Chicagoland area, what are you seeing that's driving the international companies to come here? Like, are
Mhm.
we all on point, or is there anything that you hear people saying that would give us more of an insight into this international hub?
Well, I'm going to say that's a very complicated question at the moment.
Sorry.
Traditionally, which by the way, I am a certified international property specialist. So when I go to these international conferences, I go with the intent of being a Chicago cheerleader, saying all the things that we have to offer. The largest fresh body of water, us being a logistics hub, the variety and diversity of our businesses. So I go as a Chicago cheerleader. But if they're not seeking Chicago for whatever reason, maybe it's just land. Obviously, we don't have a lot of land in Chicago proper. We might in Illinois. Or it could be they need ports that are not in the city. They need a gateway city, whether it be Miami or New York. Um, Even if they are not there, then that's where I'm a connector. Now, it's complicated at the moment under our current administration because there's a lot of caution and a lot of business uncertainty. I mean, I think we all know the long haul for the US is stable, that we are going to continue. Obviously, we have a lot of land, we have a lot of diversity, we have a lot of offerings in the US. But there's a lot of uncertainty at the moment around tariffs and what to expect from our administration. So
Wait,
it's
let
not
me let
making an
me
easy transaction.
let me pause you there, Teresa. Are you saying that that some of the geopolitical issues and governmental issues, that it makes it particularly difficult for Chicago right now, or just any
Especially
international,
Chicago.
especially Chicago? Okay, can you clear that up? Why is that? Why is that your opinion?
Well, for many reasons, but partly there's an animosity towards our state. This is the first president in a long time that has used the federal purse against the states that he does not like. Whether you agree with his policies overall or not is another story, but it's the first time that we're experiencing this,
So
taking
you're
away
actually
funding.
here. Are you hearing that from companies? Or is,
Oh,
I
well,
mean,
it
I
depends
know
on
it's
who you talk to.
okay.
Some people think that, yeah, manufacturing's coming back. Yeah, there's hope this is going to happen. So, certainly depending on what side of the political aisle, but we are feeling the effect of tariffs that is
Okay.
trickling down to multiple businesses and the uncertainty. Now, whether you agree with tariffs or not is another story, but it's been a
Right.
very uncertain path. So,
Okay.
I particularly do believe in taxation on consumerism over productivity. However,
Mhm.
it's not being laid out in a form that businesses can anticipate properly. So it is impacting both locally and how businesses are interacting here. I was
Mhm.
just on another call and from Canada, and they said, we're finding different trade partners right now. Like we don't feel welcome, so we're looking to Europe, we're looking to China, and that is impacting. Again, it's not that the customer base is going away. There's, how many millions of people here in Chicago and in other cities. So the base is not going away of consumerism. It's just there's a lot of variables that are uncertain at the moment.
I love that you talked about that, because one of the things that I just realized I didn't bring up in that opening slide was the talent that we have here, the universities, all the specialties. When you are talking to foreign companies that are coming to reside in the Chicagoland area, um, are they prioritizing the talent Like, do they actually talk about the talent and the trade literacy that we have here in Chicago? Is that
I
something that
believe it's one of our tenants, right? So yes, the us being a logistics hub is very important, having the infrastructure, but certainly talent and education is up there because we have a very educated workforce, which is not
Mhm.
the case throughout a lot of the country. So many of your major cities, yes, you have an educated workforce, but we have some of the top tier universities. We have good tech companies here. People come here from California. They're tech companies because real estate's cheaper, cost of living is cheaper, the logistics hub. So they come here, even if they don't love the weather, they come because they know what's available to them.
Unless they just stay. I love the weather after I stay for the summer, only the summer. Thank you, Teresa.
We're always
Um,
full of surprises, right? If you don't like the weather, just wait 20 minutes.
That's exactly right. I found that to be very true. Thank you. So, Carl, let me segue to you. So Teresa has just helped us to understand that we do have a very educated population here. And because we're educated, we understand trade a little bit more, though you can join the Global Chamber and get all of the trade information that you need. But from a logistics point of view, do you see international companies using Chicago as their US entry or distribution hub?
Not necessarily. We're not coastal, okay? And you mentioned that earlier. You know, you gotta maybe come in through the East Coast, come in through the Gulf, come in through the West Coast if you're coming in. But the being Chicago, being in the Midwest, we have the people. You know what I'm saying? We have the infrastructure. We have the Fortune 500 headquarters. You know, that's the business mecca side of international trade. You're with your trading partners on an ongoing basis. You know what I'm saying? So that I don't know if I'm toning it correctly on it coming
No,
in. Yeah,
I mean, no, I think what you're saying is that's not one of the reasons why they're going to choose. Like, they're not going to choose for Chicago to be the entry point, but they are going to look at some of these other things that we have, the tentacles, as Teresa called it, and then that is going to make them land up here, which works for me.
Absolutely. And what Teresa did not say when she opened up, she talked about Naperville. Well, you know, that was voted maybe one of the number one neighborhoods with quality of
Yes,
living and raising a family. So talk about the infrastructure. You not don't say just Chicago. Chicago, people from Naperville come to Chicago every day to do business. Then they go back to Naperville and raise their families. They go back to
good point.
Evanston. They go back to see. We have a surrounding areas that make Chicago what it is. Okay, so don't
I agree.
everybody says Chicago. Yeah, it is Chicago because this is
Chicago
where
land,
the yeah
Chicago land, right?
yeah yes the Chicago metropolitan area. So that's the strength of it. Uh, you know they're gonna come through Chicago. Everything, but like you said, the rail infrastructure. How you opened up, we've got
Mhm.
O'Hare. That was just recently the number one airport in the country. Now we're talking about passengers, but no, we're talking about cargo. Okay,
Mhm.
cargo as well. So the cargo infrastructure, as I told you, I was with United Airlines. I was there at O'Hare. You know, the development. They're putting another $1 billion. Another. The only thing, the bad thing about O'Hare, they ran out of land to grow. Okay, they are a landlocked airport. You know, people around the infrastructure are saying, I can't hear. You know what I'm saying? I'm waking up planes that, you know, so I have to shut down planes at certain times.
Yeah.
So that's the only negative about O'Hare. It is reaching its growth potential, which will always be a force in the Midwest, but you know, it's not going to get any bigger because it's landlocked. Okay. It's a landlocked situation.
That's a good point. I know that but before we started there was an issue that you wanted to get into because I just don't think we can avoid it. I'd like to keep it, all fun and flowers, but we are really dealing with major supply chain disruptions in our world. And I would like to know from you that these disruptions and global tensions, we know that they're influencing trading routes and decisions. Do you see that happening in the Midwest? And I guess more of a pertinent question is, how do you see that actually playing out in the Midwest?
Just reductions in volumes is the major. Okay, you can start that. You know, people cannot, these businesses, before the Supreme Court decision last week, companies had what Teresa said, the uncertainty. Okay. People had orders sitting in China that they didn't want to bring in because they didn't want to pay the tariff, because the tariffs were going to put them out of business. So the reduction in what we consider a TEU, that's a 20-foot equivalent unit. The volume of TEUs coming in from China is down. The ocean carriers are saying, my ships aren't full. See, they were never full going from the U.S. back to China. They were living with that. They had to get them back there. You know what I'm saying? But the thing was, when they came from China, they always came at maximum capacity, and now they're not. Okay, there's room. So now there's fluctuation of rates. You know what I'm saying? How much are my containers costing? You know what I'm saying? Because now people are looking at their shipping costs because they never really looked at that because it went along. But now with the high tariffs, they're looking at other ways to reduce costs. Okay.
Mm.
So
Mhm.
that's how that fits in. So managing a global supply chain is very important at this time because
Mhm.
the shippers are looking at it now, whereas before it was more of an add-on. Now
Mhm.
people are, they're sharpening their pencils. They're looking at how much am I paying? How can I reduce costs?
Oh,
Tariff.
you are. I'm itching now, Carl. Now I really want to hear from Jack. I'm like, okay, we're talking money.
Yeah.
I
Mhm.
mean, that's fantastic. Let me switch to Jack. Jack,
Okay.
Yep.
this is where we are, right? So when we're
Yes.
looking at these currency fluctuations, are they currently impacting? I don't know if you can talk about in Chicago, but whatever geographical area you can talk to us about. How are they impacting importers, exporters in today's global market?
Well, they're definitely impacting both sides, especially importers. I mean, the dollar last year lost about close to 10% of its value. It's so far from December to today, it's pretty stable. It's stabilized a little bit, but it's lost a lot. Last year, I would be talking to a lot of clients, and because of the tariff uncertainty, there'll be a tariff one day, and then a tariff, not a tariff, and they just basically put everything on hold. They didn't buy. That affected us because a client that normally does a certain amount per month was skipping months, and they basically said, we just don't know what the price is going to be. We're going to look for other suppliers with the US. Um, so there was a lot of uncertainty last year. It started to stabilize later in the year, but at first it was the Wild West. It was kind of crazy. But yeah, we're seeing, like I said, the dollar right now is very weak compared to it was a year ago. About a 10% difference. If and that will hurt importers because they're paying more for the goods. And then on top of that, you're putting a tariff on as well. So that just adds to a lot of pain. So a
Mm,
lot of shifting of suppliers trying to get the product in, and trying to get a cheaper price, more or less. Some of my clients were like, I'm just going to look in the US for my supplies. So when they're dealing with US dollars, that kind of puts me on, I need some kind of conversion. That's what we work with. So that's kind of where we're standing right now.
okay, I feel somber with that, but
Well, I think it's getting better. I think it's stabilized. We're used to this tariff craziness. And now that the Supreme Court basically overturned it, it'll be interesting to see what's going to happen. There's got to be refunds involved. Now you're seeing companies sue the federal government. FedEx the other day was suing, is now announced. And now there's going to be 10% across the board, and then 15, I guess, down the road after the 150-day period. But but I just, I'm no expert at all, but when these tariffs first came on, I said this is going to really disrupt our business, and it did. It did
yes,
from a standpoint, not just in Chicago, but across the country.
yes.
Because all the clients I talked to is like, I don't know how much this is going to cost next month. So
Mm.
If I don't know how much it's going to cost, I'm not going to bother buying it right now. Let's hold off and
Mhm.
see what happens. So it's interesting times for all of
Yeah,
us.
it is. It's interesting how these tariff questions and whether or not there is going to be any kind of refund, which hasn't happened as of yet, but it's trickling down to even consumers who are saying we paid for this tariff. So even if
Exactly.
you give that back, to the business, are you then going to have that trickle down to us? And that's going to be business to business making those decisions about how important those relationships are. Here's my second question, Jack. What financial mistakes most often delay or complicate international transactions?
I would say a lot of companies, especially in the US, when it comes to hedging, and forward contracts and protecting, minimizing the risk. They're a little bit hesitant about doing that. A lot of clients I talk to are like, oh, I'm not going to gamble. I don't want to gamble. I lost a couple of years ago. I got burned on the rates. But really, especially in this market, and I had a client last year that I told him, I said, just why don't you do some kind of forward contracts just to lock in something? And he's like, no, the rates are fine. We're just going to buy at the spot market. Well, sure enough, the dollar weakened off, like I said, 10%. And all of a sudden they called us and said, we should have done this. I'm like,
Oh,
I know that it just, and that's a lot of mistakes companies make in the US is that, I mean, a lot of companies do hedge, but there are some, and that's what we tried to provide assistance with that what type of situation where you don't have to hedge the whole thing. You don't have to hedge 100%, and you don't have to hedge a year out. You could just 6 months out, maybe 50% of your needs, just to lock in some, just to minimize risk. So I think that's one of the major um, you know mistakes I see companies make. They don't hedge quick enough. They don't have a program in place. And there's other mistakes made. They're using the wrong payment rails, poor documentation on the wire. It just delays the wire, or delays the payment to the vendor to the point where
wait, I'm sorry, Jack. What are they doing? That's with the paperwork.
uh, poor documentation, like maybe the remittance wasn't correct or things like that. Just administrative stuff, happens a lot, especially when you're manually inputting a lot of these payments. And a lot of companies are not streamlined. You'll be kind of shocked that mid to larger companies are still manually putting in one payment at a time, or sending checks, or things like that, instead of just doing wire transfers, doing a major file, sending a file to us, and we could upload hundreds of payments at once. So there's a lot of
Sending a check, sending
oh
a
yeah,
check.
yeah, and yeah, or receiving checks. Either one of the two, you'll be surprised. I ran into one the other day. It's like, yeah, I'm receiving checks from Canada, and I'm like, oh,
Oh, I
okay,
see.
yeah.
Right.
So it's a lot of like old school type of processes that in place that kind of slow everything down, and it kind of opens up a lot of mistakes,
Mhm,
a
mhm.
lot of errors. So
I
yeah.
see that. I see that. Okay. I think we're just at about 11:35 and we are having a wonderful discussion here. I know there was someone, Dwight, I think that you had a question. Did you have a question or were you I know that you're involved. Dwight is one of our longtime GC Chicago board members. And so I'd like to bring you on, Dwight, if you have a question or if you'd like to share or something you want to ask one of our panelists.
I didn't really have any question in that. I just put in the chat in that my core area that I can help people with is on the international trade financing side, credit risk management, the whole process of going about structuring your deals so that you get paid ultimately in the end. And that
I love
so
it. Thank you.
That's the simplicity of it, frankly.
I think Dwight, it's an important enough subject that I think that we should look at as GC Chicago. We should look at maybe just doing a webinar just on this issue alone. I want to say we did it a couple of years ago, but I think it's time to bring it back
Well,
because
we
well,
did. It's important element. It underpins the whole deal structure in that. If you don't go about setting up your transaction right, I mean if you're doing sales in that on online payment by credit card, that's a whole different matter in that. But if you want to have a robust sales revenue in that, you've got to get a little more competitive in that when it comes to your terms and conditions. But that means you've gone about the right due diligence process to set that up in that, and you've got the processes in place, whether you're a one-man person shop or a large corporation. I mean, I was with three different entities in Chicago. That's my tie to Illinois, to three different entities. One was foreign credit insurance, where we covered 9 states of the upper Midwest for commercial and political risk coverage. And then ultimately, Motorola Credit Corp was associated with them for several years, including expatriating to Singapore to handle that business. And then
wait,
way off in Quincy, Illinois, Harris
I'm sorry,
Corporation at the time.
are they located? I missed that. Are the ones that you just mentioned, are they located in Chicago?
Well, they were located in Chicago. I mean, Harris, of course, was in Quincy, Illinois, so that's a somewhat dated fact, but we were in the state in that. The other one was tied with the Export-Import Bank that has now been, no longer exists, but part of the Exim Bank. And then, of course, Motorola, which is still out in the northwest side.
Okay. Thank you, Dwight. I wanted to because that's something that Teresa said made me think about whether or not global expansion. I know, Teresa, you deal with more than just Chicago, right? But is global expansion in the Midwest for manufacturing, do you still see that occurring?
Yes and no. Manufacturing doesn't happen just overnight. You think, oh, we're going to bring manufacturing jobs here. That's a
Hmm.
long play. And so people have to decide when building a facility, does this make sense long term? And then even when you bring it back, it doesn't necessarily mean lots of employment because robots are taking over and AI in some capacity. So it's not quite the manufacturing expansion, I think, that people are hoping for in for terms of jobs in the US. Is there
Hmm.
still some? Yes, but there's also others that are shutting down. So, I don't have exact metrics, but both are happening, but not at the speed at which we think it can happen.
Okay, so I know at the risk of taking us a little bit off topic, Teresa, you have piqued my curiosity with the robots because I am watching this very carefully. I know right now I for about $14,000 I can buy a robot, and I'm tempted when I get that next case settlement. But right now I want to know what you know about the robots.
Well, I'm not going to pretend to be an expert, but I do know from a metric standpoint, if it used to be 10 people working in China and you bring a manufacturing job here, it might be only 1 to 4 people tops because robots can take over those potential jobs. For anything
Mhm.
repetitive, we're not living in a Ford era anymore where we need people to do those things. Anything that's repeat can be automated with robots. I mean, there are exceptions now so yesterday I just had a webinar in reimagining industrial spaces. And one of the things, the owner who is creating designs for these industrial spaces to make them more adaptable for today's life. Say you didn't have a drive-in or a loading dock or whatever, or you need it temporarily. He said what was great is he's not based out of China, so they can very easily highly specify what they need for that space. So if you're repurposing an old building instead of do a whole new building with the kind of docks that you need, like Amazon does, and their distribution centers, if you're working with stuff in the city of Chicago, trying to design that space that is functional for today, but would have been functionally obsolete. This is someone who can come in and work with what they have. And yes, then they're going to manufacture here because it's not a highly automated process. I should
Mm.
say, as a side note, as a background, my dad was a mechanical engineer, and what he used to do back in the day is they'd say, "Make a machine that does this," and that's what he would do. He would just make a machine that does this.
I was at a conference this I think this like maybe 5 6 months ago, but it was downtown and they were looking at so much of Chicago's empty buildings, the the space people don't need to be, not need to have all of the space that they used to have in some of these buildings, and they were building gardens or creating gardens. And I went up and looked at one of them, and it just seemed like a concept that was, it felt very foreign until I remembered that this is definitely one of the smart city ideas. Around Chicago, are you seeing more gardens pop up in locations that were not meant, or like we traditionally wouldn't think about having gardens?
I really don't know that I can answer that question. I could talk about repurposing, but I don't
Okay.
guess I didn't take any kind of data. As it happens, I am a garden and flower person. I love going to conservatories, but I guess I'm not looking for random gardens, so I wouldn't know that answer. But I know a lot of people
Well,
ask
I
me,
think repurposing is the same thing.
yeah, post pandemic, people are like, "Oh, is commercial dead?" And I'm like, are you eating out? Are you buying groceries? Are you going to get your hair cut? Are you going for services, healthcare, or whatever?" I said, I wouldn't want to be a leasing broker in the loop right now. But, again, they're re-envisioning those spaces. And it's not like you could just turn, a skyscraper office building into residential, right? It just doesn't work that way. The spaces don't work that way. So we are seeing repurposing, and some of it might be gardens, some of it might be office to residential, or the way the office space is used. It's because some of those office buildings you can buy for 10 cents on the dollar. You can't even build the buildings for what you're paying for them, but you have to have a vision and know what your return is, that when you repurpose it, that you're going to get your money back and then some, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
gardens are more a luxury, not a return on financial investment. That's a return on mental investment.
Yeah, look into this, Teresa. I mean, I was fascinated, like some spaces that really have changed. And of course the products are on the higher end, but it was a whole conference on it. Like they were, rented a bus and were taking us around, and I was really amazed at how that was happening. I do think it's important to repurpose space. And as we think about AI and robots beginning to take a lot of those manual jobs, I think that we have no choice, right? We know that the UN is also looking at 2030, and how sustainable are we for this brave new world? Okay, so Carl, I may let you wrap it up here. I think out of all the things that have been said, I'm wondering, for small and mid-sized importers, um, what's one logistical strategy? What's one strategy about bringing products in and setting up shop, given the tariffs? What do you think? What are we going to tell them?
I think the economy's good, and I think America's good. Regardless to what the current political situation is, we all know that's something that we have to deal with, and it too shall pass. Okay, America is a resource for all companies global that want to sell their products. We're still the number one customer in the world. You know what I'm saying? And that's one thing that this administration is right on. People want to sell to the U.S. Okay, we are a consumer market, even though we have our production schedules and things of that. We talked about the robots, and they're taking over the auto industry. That's basically where they fit in. There's a lot of other positions there too, but if I was going to sell to the U.S., I would ship my product into Chicago or the Midwest and distribute from there because you're going to see everybody comes through Chicago. Chicago has everything. Everybody wants to source their product in Chicago. I spoke with groups before, and I tell people about if you live in another country, us in Chicago, we are spoiled. We have the first and best of everything right at our fingertips. And as we travel around the world, we say, you don't have this, you don't have, we're spoiled. And so continue to ship to the Midwest, okay?
You to
You
keep you
will
coming
sell
to
your
Chicago.
product. You will
Thank
sell
you.
them.
Thank
Uh-huh.
you. I see Mr. Omar has a question. Please go off mute and tell us your question.
Uh, Hi, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes. Mhm.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you, everybody. I think this is my first time joining the Chicago chamber, so it's pleasure to meet you all. I just want to share one of the information maybe you are familiar with that my name is Muhammad Omar. I am living in Ankara, Turkey. And there is some similarity between Chicago and Ankara, which is in the middle of the country, and it's a little bit cold in general of the country's climate. But and I'm involved in global trade, almost 20 years between Turkey and Iraq. And I also just wanted to mention because Turkey's Chamber of Commerce, Chamber of Chambers here called the TOBB, TOB. They have a logistic and a trade center in Chicago. So anyone is looking for Turkish companies who are want to develop relations. So you can look. I will share it in the chat room. They call
Please do. Please do.
tobb.us. Those are companies are willing to enter the US market, and I am also following their works. I admire them. So just to information in general to all of you that when also trade chambers when decided to start from Chicago, they have some good reasons for that. So
What did
I
they
just wanted
say?
to share. I have
Tell us, Mohammed, why? Why did they choose Chicago?
Yes, they said the best market entry city for Chicago. It's Chicago, as you mentioned, the logistic advantages also, uh, uh, and many other reasons when for newcomers to the country to register the company and
Mm.
building relations. It will be maybe easier when you go to New York or California or some. It will be
So
much.
forget those
Yeah.
Delaware corporations and come to
Mhm.
Illinois.
Yeah, maybe they will have the Delaware Corporation, but their addresses and registrations and logistics are in Chicago.
Okay, I love
I'm
that.
not
Yeah,
sure about that, but this is
good
one of
point.
the reasons. Yeah,
Good
because as
point.
you know, global trade, they have their own rules in Iraq. It doesn't matter when if it's Iraq or Europe or US or China, they you need to find ways to enter the market. But
Right.
I think Chicago. By the way, my brother visited US, and I made him go to Chicago,
Mhm.
TOBB's location, just to see what they are doing. So again, thank you all.
Thank
It
you.
was pleasure meeting you
Thank you for
all,
your
and
comments.
maybe next time if I have opportunity, I will join too. Thank you very much,
Absolutely.
everybody.
Thank you so
Look
much.
forward to hosting you.
Yeah, wonderful. I see Brian. Brian, I love your map in the background, and I wondered if you could talk to us about the Latin America Chicago connection.
Sí, cómo no. Hi. Yes,
Here.
yes, 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 of course. Um, so Chicago Latin America connection. Um, I would say a few things. I mean, first of all, we have a huge Latino population in the Metro Chicago area. I don't know what the
Absolutely.
real number is, but I would guess it's got to be at least somewhere around 15% or more. Um, and then as far as Latin America in itself, whether it's uh, with the USMCA agreement or several other free trade agreements that we have with Latin America, Chicago and Illinois as a state has a huge export business into Latin America. Perhaps not as much as some other world regions, but certainly very significant. Um, Mexico, in particular, is a huge market for companies from Chicago and from Illinois. Um, the Central American countries make up another nice little group when you add them all together. Um, and then you've got places like Colombia, Peru, Ecuador, Chile, Argentina, that all have opportunities. And then for Latin America as well as the other world regions, I believe Chicago is one of the cities that has one of the highest numbers of consulates available. So if you need to get certain documentation, certification, etc., or perhaps a visa, um, there's diplomatic
I can
representation.
confirm that it's true.
Yep. Yeah.
I've used them all because of in the shipping industry, excuse me, that is true. That is true. Outside of New York, Chicago is the hub. Another reason why Chicago is the hub. It's not by accident what Mohammed was talking about, why everybody collaborates in Chicago to do business throughout the United States. Excuse me for interrupting you.
Sure.
No,
Sure.
that was quite in order. I really like that.
Los
I wonder.
Angeles and Houston are the other two. Those are the top four. Miami is number five. So those are the top five.
Yeah.
Thanks for that, Doug.
Mhm.
I I am we're right at, I guess we have about 7 minutes. I wanted to give my panelists an opportunity maybe to say one final thing about what they do in Chicago and or with bringing companies to Chicago and why it might be important to set up here. If there's anything other than what you've already said, if not, please just give us your farewells, and so I can thank you for being a guest.
I'll
Teresa,
go.
ladies first.
I would just like to say, I don't know what I'm not doing. In fact, I'm trying to take stuff off my plate, bringing on more brokers, giving them these deals. But I would say, as a business owner, and to your point in the beginning about connecting, I always want to hear what people are doing. Let's connect on LinkedIn. If there is something that you're seeking, because I can't keep it all in my head, my assistant does put everything in the database, and my son is working. He's my tech guy. He's out of Finland. So that's how global I am. One of my sons doesn't even live here. He's getting his EU citizenship. Um, he helps me because I know have so many connections. Let's put people together. What are you seeking? What needs, what are offering needs, wants? Tell me, let's connect on LinkedIn, and always happy to help if I can.
I love it. Okay, and you've already you put your information in the chat, Teresa. Okay,
Yes, I did.
thank
Thank you.
you. Appreciate you.
Mr. Demetrius, did you already introduce Alex? Alex, or do you want to say a word?
I can't really see Alex, but yes, please.
Hey
Great.
everyone. Yes, this is Alex from
Hi,
Midwest
Alex.
Global Staffing. I am not directly in Chicago. Our company is based in Wisconsin. So,
Mm.
yeah, I'm just hearing what you guys were bringing to the table today. And thank you very much for having me. Appreciate it.
Thank
Appre-
you, Alex. Okay, so it's okay. You're not in Chicago. You're still in the Midwest. Can you
Yes.
can you tell us like why did you choose that location?
Basically, that's where the CEO of our company lives. So, yeah, we have two companies. One is a global staffing agency, and the other one is an MSP, IT company. So, yeah, that's pretty much the two services we have. We serve a lot of manufacturers, and we're hosting a manufacturing event this in a month on March 24th. That'll be in Franklin, Wisconsin. If you know someone who can be interested, feel free to share that with them. The information is on the chat. So thank you very much, Doug.
Demetrius, you might need to just do the wrap up because we only have about 3 minutes.
Okay.
But Will Andier, I don't know if you've spoken with him, but he's a logistics expert based in Chicago. So Will, and he's also a fisherman, so he's a busy guy. But if you have 30 seconds that you want to just quick introduce yourself.
Yeah. Can you hear me? I can't see
I
myself there.
will.
Yeah, we can see
Hello.
you, hear you.
Yeah. I'm in Chicago. I'm actually from Michigan originally. I lived in California for a long time. I spent time in between both here and there. I've been here, I think 16, 17 years. I live in Logan Square. If anybody wants to grab a coffee or anything, I'm always up for socializing. So I'm freight forward, import, export, forward to foreign, all that kind of stuff.
Okay,
Let's
I'm a
do it.
coffee drinker.
Let's do
I'll
it.
take you up on
Let's
that.
do it.
I will. Right. I will take you up on that. Is your information in the chat?
Yeah, LinkedIn. I put my LinkedIn. You can just
Okay.
send me a message or Mondays and Fridays are best for me, but I can.
So Will's company is based in Southern California, so they show up as a based in Southern California company, but they're members, but he happens to be in Chicago. So
yeah, I'm at Stowe Airport actually.
and
He's in a very
Demetrius,
interesting area.
you might have heard, Demetrius, that Chicago's known as a trade town.
Yes, I heard.
Mhm.
Logan Square is probably like the heart of Trade Town. That's a
Right.
wonderful area. Oh, Carl. Okay, Carl, we have you. You ready? What's your wrap
Yeah,
up,
I'm
Carl?
ready. I just want to say bye. I look forward to joining this chamber. I enjoyed this
Oh,
conversation.
thank you.
I want to tell you, I did like Facebook and Meta because I rebranded the name of my company. So all of you
Okay.
know that 606 Global. I wanted to say Chicago in my name, but I didn't want to say Chicago. I didn't want to be Windy City Logistics. So 606 is the first three
606.
numbers of the zip code of Chicago. So really, I'm Chicago Global, and
Okay.
I want everybody to know that we're gonna be a big trade tourism destination. We've got the opening in a few months of the Barack Obama Presidential Library. You know, there's a
Okay.
lot of different reasons that people are going to be coming to Chicago. Africa, we're trying to get more Africans to come to visit this, as Barack Obama's father was from Kenya. So just wanting to say thank you for having me. I look forward to join. I've been working with super attorney, super lawyer, Demetrius Evans, and thank you for inviting me, everybody.
Thank
Have a great
you.
day.
Appreciate
Mhm.
you. Thank you.
Mhm.
Jack, you get the last minute.
Mhm.
Yes. Well, I want to thank everybody. Thank you for inviting me. It was a great conversation. And if you have any of those payment needs, you know where to find me, more or less. I'll make it short and sweet.
Can we send
thank
you
you.
a check?
No checks, please.
Thank you all. Thank you all. Thank you for being here, Doug. I'll turn it back over to you, and thank you to whoever was doing all of that switching around the background. You're totally amazing.
Yeah. Let's have a good rest of the day. This was the fourth event for Global Chamber today. There's actually one that's still going on in Mexico City on the ground. And then tomorrow we have 1, 2, 3, 4 more events. And then Friday we have 3 events ranging all over the world, all sorts of different topics. But fundamentally, Demetrius, as you know, is we're a community of trust, a community of integrity, a community of opportunity, and people who do stuff. As Charles Bukowski has on his gravestone, don't try, which means let's do. Let's do some deals. Thank you, Demetrius. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank
Be
you.
global.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
Up,
Yep.
up, up. Bye.
Mhm.